Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Before I call the Select Board meeting to order tonight, we actually have a County Commissioners meeting, so I'm going to turn it over to Chair Veith.
I'm going to call to order the County Commissioners of Nantucket. Today is June 24th, 2026, and it's 5:30 just now. I guess since we're all in the room, I can just do roll call, but Matt V, Bob, Dawn, Jill, I don't have to. Oh, good. Well, we still do that at FinCom.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're all here. Thank you.
This meeting is being audio video recorded. I'm going to open up for public comment. Mr. Barnes.
Curtis Barnes. This is a very friendly comment to the board. It is hard to hear you. You are talking in conversations to each other, and these are being broadcast. So would you kindly speak out so all of us can hear? Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I'm going to close public comment. I don't think there's any new business. If okay with the board, with the commission, I'm going to ask for an approval of the minutes, warrants, and pending contracts all in one.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Are there any reports or comments?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The county commissioners has adjourned.
Thank you so much. I will call the June 24th Select Board meeting to order at 5:31. Brooke Moore will be joining us a little bit late tonight, so it'll be the four of us without roll call votes because she's not logged in. We will accept the agenda as written and move to announcements, which I'll turn over to the town manager.
Thank you. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. The Community Claims Fund that launched on Monday, January 26th is open to accept claims in connection with the blade failure settlement, wind turbine blade failure of 2024 settlement. The fund has a dedicated website with instructions as to how to file a claim, and those claims must be filed no later than June 26th, 2026. And the contact information for that settlement fund is on the town website. We have round 2 coming up of committee vacancies and appointments. And those committees include the Cannabis Advisory Committee, Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, Council for Human Services, Council on Aging, Cultural Council, Finance Committee, Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust, Town of Nantucket Scholarship Committee, Sign Advisory Council, and Zoning Board of Appeals. And applications for those groups are due by 4 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd. And that is it for announcements.
Are there any opening Select Board announcements or comments?
I would like town administration to request information on Vineyard Wind. I heard Representative Sear say at his town hall the other day that Vineyard Wind was supplying energy to 400,000 homes, I believe is what he said. And I have fished by there now 3 days. I'm going by there tomorrow at 4 a.m. The light will be up, and I'll be happy to take pictures. But I have not seen more than 25% at best of those turbines turning. And I know that each of those turbines needs electricity to run their lights. So I would like a report as to how much power they're actually putting out, or if they're actually taking power back through the cables to maintain their navigational equipment. And if they are not putting out the full capacity of power, what's the problem? We were told, over a year ago that they were complete, and I'd like to know. I'm sure the taxpayers of this town would like to know as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would just note that Jim Cooper has resigned from the Board of Health, so in the committee vacancies, we'll be advertising again for a Board of Health seat. Update on public comments from prior select board meetings. I do have a few notes here. Public comment questions from the meeting of June 10th. Campbell Sutton asked whether a second microphone could be made available during public meetings in the community room. The town's response, the microphone arrangement will remain as is. There is one microphone to help ensure orderly public comment. Raymond DaCosta asked whether the NRTA could pick up people parking at the high school and middle school and bring them into town during the busy summer months. The NRTA response, NRTA would need to evaluate several steps before moving forward with this option. The use of parking areas would require approval from Nantucket Public Schools because adding service would entail additional costs. Approval from the NRTA Advisory Board would likely also be required. Next up, we have public comment for items that are otherwise not on our agenda tonight. And we do need to limit these comments to 3 minutes. I was just looking to see if we did. Okay. Megan Perry.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Excellent. I just wanted to make sure that you, the select board, as the executive branch of town government, were all aware of the work that's being done at the site of the proposed Surfside Crossing 40B development. The neighboring houses are shaking from it. I've been told permanent damage is being done to people's homes from it, and people's lives are being affected negatively. As the town's sewer commissioners, I think you should listen to what the town's own expert, John Chesnia, testified with regards to it. That Surfside Crossing is for their own private use using the town sewer easement, and that directly interferes with the town's property use. If I were to do that, or any other person did that, it would be addressed immediately. You, as the sewer commissioners, can issue a stop work order and an eviction to Surfside Crossing, and I, along with many others, am asking that you do just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Amy Eldridge.
Hi, Amy Eldridge. I had a question about the proposed pro forma that was done for our island home and what's being done in advance to look at the budgeting costs and
All right.
overruns that can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. What's being worked on in advance of the actual construction of the facility to help lessen the fear of the expense over 20 years that will be coming from the taxpayers. The pro forma showed us that potentially middle of the road that at year 7, we could be asking for an additional 3 million, which would be 8. And then at year somewhere between, I think, 13 and 15, they could be asking for anywhere between 10 and $15 million. I just would like to know what is on your guys' radar for helping to reduce those costs, because that's 3 times the cost of the building over 20, 25 years. And that's a huge, heavy burden to the taxpayers. And there are people struggling to keep their homes here. And I just feel like that's not being looked at appropriately. And is there a way to, if there are issues once the building is moved into, that can, audit what's happening there to see how we can better save money and keep the cost of the operations of the facility down? Because again, we are the last municipality in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be running our own island home. And I think that the operating cost being potentially over 25 years, 3 times the amount of the cost of the building, is frightening at best. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none. We have no new business. Approval of minutes, payroll warrants, treasury warrants, and pending contracts, unless there are any comments or questions.
Sorry, I had to clock out so I could do. Is it okay if I leave my phone there?
Amy?
Oop.
Can someone mute Amy?
Sort of a typo there, so we just need to say something like, works with National Grid or is cooperative with the town or something. But other than that, with some of the change, understanding the change to that motion. Everyone else do that. For the minutes, just.
No, for all four.
Well, actually, I'll make, I think we can comments on payroll.
Matt, Mike.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so you're making a motion for items 1 through 3
Yes. With the,
with
the
that change.
with the comment I made about we have a run, we need to fix a sentence.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That carries unanimously 4-0. Are there comments on pending contracts?
You want to start?
You can start if you want to, but.
I'm trying to wrap my head around these 3 contracts for the island home. So I did the math for item 1, or the first one is 103,658,240. The second one is adding 2,522,740, and the third is adding 2,396,275. So it says that it's coming from Article 11 at town meeting of this year. How much money did we approve at town meeting, Article 11?
Madam Chair, first of all, let me just correct something that is on the agenda incorrectly in connection with our island home. The SMRT contract, that's an amendment for construction administration phase design services. It says Article 11, 2026. It should be 2022. And thank you, Jill, for pointing that out earlier. And I think our owner's project manager, John Lemieux, is online and can answer questions about the
Right,
costs.
so that third item, that 8,025,580 is coming off of the total?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The item 3,
Yep.
the SMAT, that's not from Article 11?
It's from a different town meeting, but it's
Okay,
just
so
was happening.
Give me a second here. Let me do some math. Okay, so how much money do we appropriate at town meeting in Article 11?
26.
I don't actually have that right in front of me, so, but I can
Because
get it.
I think somewhere in my head, it sticks that it was like 119 million.
That's
Well,
the borrowing,
Yeah, well,
the
this is,
additional borrowing.
this is 123 million. So I want to know where the other 4 point, and the 8 is, or the 8's coming from another article. See, this is where we get, this is where it gets foggy
We
because
have other articles and retain earnings that add up to, I think it's about $135 million. But maybe someone from finance could speak on this?
is John online? Or is Rick online?
I'm here. I'm here.
Rick?
I'm here too, Libby.
on? Okay, can either of you respond to the question?
So the comment about SMRT, right? So it's all on how you break this down, right? The original total project is roughly 135, 136. That was made up of the original $8.5 million appropriation. Okay, if you take that away, that left us about 126 million left. And then if you take away the retained earnings, you're at the 119 for the actual borrow. Okay, so it's a combination of 2 different town meeting appropriations and a retained earnings transfer of money into the project. Our island home retained earnings.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do.
it's an answer. I'll give you that. I get concerned about just rubber stamping this kind of money without any kind of guardrails to make
Ju-
sure that
ju-
we don't go over.
Yeah, just to be clear, all of those contracts are within the values that were presented in the summary financials of the project at town meeting. None of those three numbers are above the values that were presented. So they're all within the budget line items for the job.
And when do we anticipate to break ground?
We would anticipate you'll start seeing stuff going on with the housing probably late August. There's it's the Sherburne Commons housing that needs to be done first, then the removal of the two existing houses, relocation of those to the water treatment plant, and then finally breaking ground on the building itself. You won't see breaking ground on the building itself probably until the spring. But
do
the
we have to-
housing, because the housing component's first.
And do we have to give them any money for that? Sherburne Commons? How much do we have to give Sherburne Commons on top of the 1.9? And where's that coming from?
It's part of
That's
the
a-
appropriation.
It's part of the 119 million?
Mhm.
Okay. So
We are
that's part of
giving
this borrowing.
additional funding for the land. We have put options to potentially buy two of the cottages. And I've been in meetings on this,
Yep.
3 meetings in the last 20.
And I appreciate that, but I haven't, and that's why I'm asking these questions. So the options, if we have options, but we don't have the funding, so we'd have
We
to go
do
back.
have the funding.
It's part of the 1.9
It is,
and
but we may never,
119.
may never spend it. It was part of my speech
Okay.
at town meeting.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get at, just
That
want
will-
to feel
it's-
comfortable with this, because,
There are millions of dollars that may never be spent.
okay.
And rather than ask for 135 at town meeting, we asked for as little as possible that would be able to do everything and cover it all and not have to come back. So that was, yeah.
Madam
Now,
Chair.
There's other issues that we'll end up talking about in the future, I'm sure, but this is, for this part of it, yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Maybe
Okay.
now would be the time to give that other
Yes.
update.
I mean, the other thing that we've had extensive meetings on in the last 2 days is the fundraising effort. The Friends of Our Island Home are wanting to launch that. We are working with town council and the community foundation to lay out the parameters. There will be some policy decisions needed from the board for naming opportunities. And there will be more to come on that, but we are working diligently on getting that underway and hopefully raising a good portion of this out of the kindness of people's heart for such a good cause. Jill?
The chair. So when do we pay Sherburne Commons there? Because that's not here. So it sounds like that's later. Okay. But ground is going to break late August, so they don't expect a payment sooner than that? Or we don't know?
Libby? We have a meeting with them tomorrow
Okay.
to work out some of the payment schedule details that it's agreed upon without all of the final dates included because we just passed town meeting. But we are meeting with the Sherburne Commons team tomorrow. And we will be breaking ground on just the housing portion because the important thing in the way this is timed is to rebuild housing for the Sherburne Commons staff to not interrupt their operations in any way, relocate the housing that interrupts where the building needs to go, to move them to Hillside, to then move town employees into, and then to start construction of the main building.
Okay.
So that's why we will probably not occupy the main building until January 29. Or yes.
Okay, so my issue is we don't have a debt schedule yet. So we don't know when we're borrowing. We don't know how much. I don't think we're going to borrow it all at once. So we're authorizing a contract guaranteeing, I'm not saying we're not moving forward. I know we're moving forward with it, but I think it would be good to understand how much we're borrowing this year, next year, over what period of time. And I think that would help me with this. Before I want to vote on this, I personally would like to see a plan for that.
Can the treasurer respond to that? Or the deputy? Sue? Deputy Finance Director.
Sure. Good evening, Sue Carmel, Deputy Director of Finance. Through you, Madam Chair, to Ms. Feith. As far as the borrowing, we would currently not borrow in advance of the project getting underway, and we will not be borrowing in one lump sum. We're not going to go out and borrow the 119,000 right away. We would be phasing this in and borrowing in increments. It would be based on the cash flow of the project, you know, from the OPM or the engineer of what the plan for that, and we will phase it in so that it's not a big impact to the tax rate right away.
But we don't have a schedule for it. Right,
We-
we don't know
we
if it's gonna
wouldn't
be
have-
10 million or 50 or,
Correct. We will
Gonna-
probably start, we have a plan to be borrowing in the fall for some other projects, so we will probably, I can't step on that. We will probably borrow a minimal amount at that point. But no, we wouldn't have a schedule quite yet as to what the borrowing is until we see the plan on how the cash flow is on the project. We do have current cash on hand that can be used. We have the 9.8 million in retained earnings that we voted at town meeting.
no, but that warrant article said $7 million, so.
I'm sorry?
The warrant article said 7 million, so I
There
don't,
was a technical amendment at
To
town
the-
meeting. It was 9.
to an extra 2 for over 2 more.
Yeah, we voted at town meeting 9.8 million to come from retained earnings.
I thought it was 7. I don't remember that too from,
No, Sue's correct.
Thank you. Yes, it was 9.8 million retained earnings and 119,000 to be borrowed, million, sorry about that, 119 million to be borrowed. This is not stable. So we still have money left on the 8.5 million. That was the authorization in ATM 2022 for the design. So we still have some available on that as well.
yeah, I understand. I would be more comfortable if I understood exactly what the plan was. That's me. You guys can move forward.
I'm slightly confused,
Okay,
and I'm going to question you on this and
Go for it.
potentially question Sue on this.
sure.
My understanding general with these big projects, and I'm not the finance person, but we don't do the permanent borrowing until the project is finished.
Correct. So when I was
And
referring that
we
were gonna
try
be-
and get the optimal interest rate at that point.
Correct.
So how could we possibly have a debt schedule before it's
Right.
complete?
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, what I was referring to in borrowing, it would be a short-term note at first. That is what we normally do, is do short-term notes until the project is complete, and then we will bond it.
Does that make sense?
No, because we don't have $104 million to pay for that. So that, it doesn't.
We would be taking short-term notes
Just a little bit as we go.
as we go, correct? And
Yeah.
we currently have 9.8 million on hand of retained earnings, which is basically cash in hand.
I get that to get going. But I still think it would be nice to see over time how much we're adding to our debt each year. And that's what I'm,
We're happy to bring
concerned
that
about.
back as we borrow. We would be more than happy to give an update as we go on.
because I know we're not going to put it all on this year. So
Correct. Yeah.
I understand that. But we had 227 million in new spending this year. So I kind of want to see all of it, not just that, but in particular, this is the bulk of it. So that's why this is coming up for me.
Yeah, and then that ties into our later discussion about the residential exemption and the tax rate and so forth. Bobby?
Go on.
And
Go ahead, ma'am.
Matt?
I have a question on something else.
No, what I was, another way to think about it, it's like having a construction loan, which is at a higher rate as you're building the building, and then you're rolling it into a fixed 20, 30, 40 year that's a lot cheaper. And so that's kind of how I view it. I know it's not exactly, but I look at it that way. But I also do agree with what you're saying, Joe, that having having a draft of what we're trying to do and understand the impact is valid. And I think that that's something we will be doing. So.
Are we good on the island home portion? You have a separate question,
Yeah.
Bobby?
Just a quick one. And just, I'm just curious on how this is being done. The plus contract for the study to determine seasonal population estimates for summer, winter, and shoulder seasons. I'm curious how they're gonna do that. Are they using landfill figures or traffic count or school bodies or all of the above?
You can take it, Libby. No.
I was looking for you.
All right, Leslie Snell, Director of Planning. So there's a scope of services from the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute. They developed a methodology, I think in 2021, it may have been 2023, for the Cape and the islands to develop a seasonal population estimate for the shoulder seasons, the peak season of summer and the winter season. The Vineyard has already expanded on that and done their study. The Cape Cod Commission and the NPDC are both proposing to move forward on July 1st with UMass to develop the population for Nantucket and the Cape. And in the scope of services, they talk about using a physical inventory of housing units, lodging facilities, sewer data, water data, travel and lodging data, coordinating with the Chamber of Commerce as the Regional Tourism Council to get data that they have, airport and ferry data, and data from the ferry operators about commuters. So that's the kind of thing that they'll be looking at. Landfill's not
landfill?
included. I know Jill had a question about possible grocery type data. So that's not in the proposal, but if they get started and they need additional data, we could expand the scope if needed to add other types of data. But again, like a lot of these are private sources, so they would have to be willing to turn over that information.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up. Will they be
Yeah.
using GIS data? Well, like, that's how the Nantucket, the data project, use that, and as along with some of the other things you talked about, they were doing the net numbers,
I think they
GPS.
did a lot of cell phone.
Yeah,
data.
they were using that. I think it was Streetlight Ventures or someone did all that.
Yeah, this proposal does not include that. It doesn't include the credit card data either. Yeah. And this will be paid for out of Plus Professional Services.
Through the
Jill?
chair.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it's really
Thank you.
important for long range planning and knowing how many people are here during the peak and how many people are here during the off season.
Yeah.
Brooke?
Yeah, and I think from my perspective in the food security world is being able to quantify our population to understand what social service needs are as well is going to be really helpful. So all the numbers matter.
Yeah, and a lot of numbers are floated, anything from 50,000 people to 100,000 people, and that's a really big gap. So I think it's important that we have, a reputable, unbiased source like UMass Amherst Donahue to review that and to give us their estimates.
I would like to make sure they do look at the data project data that was, how they formulated that, because it was less than we thought, but it was more at peak periods when they looked at it. And so I think, there may be something there that would help them, anyway.
And they are aware of that
Yeah.
estimate, so we can talk with them about,
Yeah.
reviewing that. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions on the contracts?
One other, I had some people asking me about the Arcadis for Baxter Road and for the, what was it, the emergency access. Can we sort of tell the public why the extension and what each of them means?
I'll give it my best shot. So both of these are simply contract extensions. There's no funding involved because the projects aren't complete yet. So the first one, contract extension for Baxter Road Erosion Control Project Professional Services. That project is still existing, and we continue to need some professional services from time to time to assist with Conservation Commission activity and other reasons. And the second one is contract extension for Baxter Road Alternative Access Project. And that is not quite complete either. This is the design for that project. And we're almost there, but now we're down to some issues with abutters as to the placement of easements and roadways for the project.
Good, thank you.
Anything else?
I just have to make a snide comment, 3 million for bathrooms. How much per toilet? But anyway, and I know this is just what we pay. I understand that, but it's just,
We, we are more than happy to have the DPW director speak about this. This was bid out and this was the low bid. And it's for a number of municipal restrooms that require some significant improvements. The director could give an overview, Drew, if you would.
Can I make a comment?
Yep, sure.
Also, Matt, this came to Capitol last year, just so you know, we actually saw the pictures and
Right.
Dawn and I were practically in tears. I'm not kidding. To say it was pretty appalling what was at the MRF, and I feel strongly that this needs to happen.
I understand it needs to happen. I see the numbers and
Yeah.
I remember when a bathroom was 10 or 20 grand and now we're gonna learn how much they are.
Yeah, good evening, Drew Patno, Director of Public Works. So, yeah, this project's been in the works for a couple of years. We actually bid this last spring. The Harbor Master restrooms were included at that point. Obviously, that project's moving forward. So when we bid it again this year, that was an ad alternate that we did not select. So the 3 restrooms included are the visitor services restrooms at 25 Federal, the MRF bathrooms and break rooms at the solid waste facility, and the Sconset Comfort Station. This is the first phase of a 2-phase restroom improvements project. Those were the 3 highest priority, or 4 originally. They're really all like down to the studs renovations. It's pretty substantial HVAC improvements from a moisture perspective at all the facilities. New fixtures, new tile, paint, all that stuff. So it's getting a facelift as well. But visitor services, women's room, where there's a long line in the summer, is getting an extra fixture. We did have a lengthy conversation at Capcom about whether we connect that in 3 East Chestnut or move the restrooms, and it was a lengthy conversation, and we ended up getting back to adding a fixture, which we do expect will cut down on the queuing. The other big thing I know essentially everybody in Sconset's really excited about is the Sconset restrooms are now a seasonal restroom, but they will be a year-round restroom. And that's the only public restroom east of the airport. And that, as we know, even in the off season, there's a lot of activity out there. And so they're very excited about that. So, really some pretty substantial upgrades to these 3 pretty critical facilities. So, and yeah, I agree. I hate looking at the prices, but when we bid it this year, we had 2 bids and the low bidder was only 1% lower than the second bid. So I think they both had as much of a sharp pencil as they could, even if we don't love the price. So. Thanks.
I remember I was first on the board with the 2 of you in 2015, and we got the bid for the children's beach bathrooms, and it
Yeah.
was in the $700,000 range, and we all went nuts.
I had a
And
meltdown.
we probably should have done it.
No, we should still do what we need, I said we should have done back then and get those beautiful, fancy portable restrooms that they take to weddings and put them down there. And then when a hurricane comes, you can take it and park it somewhere where it's not going to flood. The beaches are different. I'm not saying a word about these because these are permanent bathrooms that need to be done. But some of our beaches in different areas, I really think that we should look into purchasing really beautiful, elaborate portable bathrooms that can be pumped once a week and moved around when need be.
Yeah.
They're a
we
lot
don't
cheaper
disagree
than a
with them
toilet.
On the children's.
$3
beach
million
and
toilets. We better have
like-
gold seats.
There is a portable restroom. I don't know how elaborately decked out it is in that manner, but it is a portable, nice restroom at Children's Beach that we have purchased, and there's one at the MRF also. So that actually, not to belabor, but this discussion about children's and maybe some other concession related improvements is going to be coming to you soon in a planning type of way.
Can I have a motion on the pending contracts?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously, 5-0, or?
Through the chair though, can I make?
Yes. Yes.
I'm really going to stay on top of this about these contracts and that we need a debt schedule. This is coming down fast and furious, and people are going to be surprised. They are, because I think it's personally, it's just the right thing is to be able to look and see how much is coming on, when it's coming on, even if it's approximate, we need to know. This is a very, very big, costly project all at once. And I think the public should be aware what's coming.
Okay. Next up, we have citizen departmental committee requests and reports. The finance request for authorization to extend statutory borrowing term for the replacement of a fire engine approved at the 2026 annual town meeting and election.
Madam Chair, the treasurer is going to come and explain this, but in the meantime, the item is actually approved at the 2023 annual town meeting. It's a typo in the agenda.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Point of clarification, since my son is on the fire department, should I abstain and get up from this?
I don't think so. You can just disclose it. It's not, I don't think it's a financial benefit to
Okay.
either of you.
I just want to make sure I don't cause any problems for him or for me.
Sure.
Thank you. Mindy Ernst Wunya, Treasurer and Deputy Finance Director. Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7 allows us to borrow for departmental equipment for a term of 5 years. Because fire truck is a big ticket item and it has much longer useful life than 5 years, we're asking that the board approve a 20-year life. So that's what we could borrow for. The truck will be delivered in the next couple of months, and we're borrowing for that now.
This is the truck that we approved like 3 years ago that's been being built, right? This is the
Yeah.
new ladder engine one.
Yes.
Yeah,
believe.
it's being built now.
Yeah,
We've
it's
had
an
some updates on that.
It's an Oshkosh. It's pretty cool. I saw a picture of it the other day. It's pretty neat looking.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you. Next up, we have an update on the installation of the new bike path signage and safety. Mike Burns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this ready to go or go back? All right. We had a different style slide deck I thought we were going to present on this, so apologies, Libby, for.
If I may, it's not showing online, I don't think. I'm in the Zoom meeting.
Could you get Control L on your computer there to make it full screen? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mike Burns, Transportation Program Manager for the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. This will be a status update on the bike path crossing signs you approved last June. As background, there is state law, Mass General Law, Chapter 89, Section 11, that requires a driver yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk. The local bylaw approved at the 2021 annual town meeting expanded this to require drivers yield to all path users except at major intersections determined by the town. Mass DOT does have a design guide that provides a crossing design that reflects the state law. It includes stop signs for bicyclists at all crossings as they are considered vehicles under state law, essentially creating an always stop at path crossings near intersections for drivers and bicyclists. Based on coordination among traffic safety staff and members of the old Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the stop sign was recommended to be replaced with an intersection caution sign at all path intersections except those deemed as major intersections by the town. It was approved by as I mentioned, approved by the Select Board last June. Caution signs advise that path users should use caution when entering the intersection. Drivers of vehicles are required to stop and yield at a path to the path users. The stop sign requires drivers, again, to continue to stop and yield at the crossing. Path users would need to stop and enter the crossing with caution at those intersections with a stop sign. And again, as an example of what was approved last June and implemented this past off-season, caution signs replace stop signs at the highlighted minor intersections. These include Wynn Street, along Pond Drive, and South Cambridge Street. The intersections that keep the stop signs are at Duke's Road, which is a very unsafe angle for that intersection. So keep a stop sign there, and then at the dump, the Waste and Recycling Center crossing. Madam Chair, there were 4 paths that were initially reviewed by the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee and Traffic Safety. That was the Nantucket path, which I just shared the examples of. Hummock Pond Road, Pulpus Road, and Milestone Road paths have also been treated with the signage replacements, essentially had their minor intersection stop signs replaced with caution signs. And for the next phase of improvements, the balance of paths have been reviewed and will soon be completed. This map shows the highlighted paths in light green that will have their signage replaced or added. There are a lot of paths with different signage designs at these various intersections in the balance of the paths. DPW is prioritizing crossing locations with existing stop signs that need to be replaced, and then they will move on to adding signposts and appropriate signage to other locations. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, apologize for this being the older slide deck. We did have a new slide deck, but there's information online if you have any other questions about the bike paths on the island.
Questions, comments?
Just a comment. I don't have a dog in this fight, except for the fact that I live off of the Milestone Road bike path, and my experience in 30 years living there is bikers don't pay attention to any of these signs anyway. I have 2 stop signs for bikes on each side of the bike path on my road, and if I don't stop and creep out, I'm going to kill somebody there someday. So, you know, it's great to put them up, Mike. Hopefully people pay attention to them. That's all I can say.
I think your traffic safety staff shares your concerns, and that's why we advise to at least have a caution sign up at these intersections for self-preservation, if nothing else. You should always try to use your bike with safety being paramount, and drivers also should be aware of stopping before these path crossings as well. So,
yeah, there's a lot of driveways and stuff off, if you live there, it's the ones that scare me are the people that don't know, like a delivery driver or something that just is in a hurry, and I'm always afraid somebody's going to get whacked. I wish that the bikers would pay a little more attention, because just because you're on a bike path doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to the signage in front of you. It's my 2 cents.
Definitely
I wish
the time
they
of year.
would pay
keep that in.
attention when they're on the road too.
Exactly.
A little more.
Especially this time of year. This is when we really see crashes increase for vulnerable users.
Brooke?
I remember when this discussion started, well, it's been going on a long time, but when we did it in earnest, I bike a lot, and I live over near Myakama Golf, and I think I counted 12 stop signs on the bike path between my house and here. It was crazy. And the point is to encourage people to ride bikes, but if you're telling someone on a bike to stop every 100 yards, you're basically making it really hard to get anywhere on a bike. Someone driving a car, all they have to do is hit the brakes and hit the gas. It's different when you're having to pedal, stop and pick up speed again. So favoring bikes, what this system has done is given the right of way to bicyclists. You can't regulate common sense ever. But what it does, Bobby, is it puts the onus on the car, which fundamentally, even when there's a stop sign on the bike path, if a car hits a biker, it's a painful experience for everybody. And so putting the onus on the cars in this way, more substantially, I think puts the responsibility with the vehicle that will cause the most damage in an incident. So I'm very much in favor of this, and I think we can create a culture, and hopefully people behind the wheel of cars will be extra careful now that they have stop signs.
It's clarifying what is the rule already. If you're crossing a travel way, you're responsible to stop. And so it's clarifying that anyone coming out of a driveway or one of the side streets, they're crossing the traveled way. And so what was happening, if you were a biker, there were 2 sets of stop signs, so you'd just get yelled at. The cars wouldn't stop, and they'd yell at you. So what I've found biking now is that it is clearer, and people are less likely to blow across in front of you and yell at you for not stopping at your stop sign. And it really has it already has, Mike, it's made a difference in the places that have it and don't. I've seen, I've only almost been hit once this year, which is a start. And today, because of the mayhem that's starting on Island, I brought a wear your helmet down, and I talked to all the employees. I'm doing it for a whole week. It's laminated. We had, 3 people carted off with helicopters and ambulances last summer that were employed with me. So I am trying to be proactive and not send them home, permanently damaged like we did with a couple of them last year. So we're trying to make them aware that it is very dangerous. And if you're on, some of these alternative modes, you need to have your helmet on. And I don't know that they will listen to me because they look at me like I'm their grandfather, but we'll find out.
Any other comments or questions? This was an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And congratulations for getting it to this point.
Yes.
Phase two.
Next up, we have real estate matters. A request for approval and execution of a quitclaim deed with the provisions set forth therein to Nantucket Conservation Foundation for a parcel of land known as 50 Altar Rock Road, shown as Lot A on Land Court Plan number 9487A, prepared by William S. Swift, surveyor, dated September 1922, and filed with a certificate of title number 1405 at the Nantucket Registry District of the Land Court, pursuant to vote on Article 93 of the 2022 Annual Town Meeting and Chapter 159 of the Acts of 2024.
Thank
Good
you very
evening,
much.
Tracy.
That was a mouthful. Tracy McDonald, I'm the real estate manager. I'm going to try to sum it up for you. I'm presenting tonight a request for the approval and execution of a deed from the town of Nantucket to the Nantucket Conservation Foundation for the property known as Altar Rock. It's located at 50 Altar Rock Road. This conveyance is related to a memorandum of understanding between the town of Nantucket, the county of Nantucket, the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and Sheep Pond Road residents, which was executed by the parties on May 13th, 2025. As part of the terms of this agreement, an additional consideration, the town agreed to convey Altar Rock property to NCF in exchange for a permanent easement for access road coordinated, permitted, and constructed by the town for the benefit of the Sheep Pond Road residents. The Sheep Pond residents have formed a homeowners association for the maintenance and management of the new private access road. These residents will also pay a betterment for the costs associated with the construction of the road pursuant to a betterment assessment statement, which was signed by the county commissioners on September 17th, 2025, as affected by amendment signed on December 17th, 2025. A copy of the HOA agreement and the permanent easement agreement was included in your packet for informational purposes, and after the deed is recorded by NCF, those documents will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds along with the easement plan. I request a motion for the approval and execution of the quitclaim deed from the town of Nantucket to Nantucket Conservation Foundation, Inc. for the parcel at 50 Altar Rock Road, shown as Lot A on Land Court Plan 9487A, as authorized by Article 93 of the 2022 Annual Town Meeting and Chapter 159 of the Acts of 2024. And myself and Town Council are here to answer any questions.
Good evening, Vicki. Does
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Hi. Bob.
I understand the reasoning for doing this, and I wasn't part of this negotiation, but I want to know if, is there any way that we can ensure that they're not going to close this road?
To Altar
Because-
Rock?
Well, this is the main road that goes up to the rock and goes down behind it. And part of it has already been closed by them, even though I didn't realize it was a town road, but right at the top of the hill there, they've already put rocks across that road that goes down the hill, the other direction. And there's not a lot of roads left out there to drive on. They've closed a lot of them over time with gates or rocks or posts or whatever. And if we're going to give them a piece of town land, I'd like something in perpetuity that says this road won't be closed to vehicles.
Vicki, do you want to take that, or would you like me to answer?
So there is a stipulation that was recorded with the land court when the property was originally held by the town of Nantucket. And that stipulation is still in effect, and it gave the rights for the town of Nantucket to be able to use the road as shown on the plan. So the town of Nantucket, the public, has the right to be able to use the roads as shown on the plan leading up to Alder Rock.
My only concern with that is that it should be stipulated that it's a road for vehicles, because they've changed a lot of these road now to walking and bike paths and not vehicle paths. And I want to make sure it stays a road that a vehicle can traverse. Is that something that can be added, Vicky, or is that understood? Or, things change over time, and there was a lot of roads out there that we used to drive around on that no one can drive on anymore. Not just out there, but all over.
I understand.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
understand. I will take another.
I'd like that to be clear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Tracy, did you speak?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm happy to take a look at the stipulation again and see the exact wording, and I'd be happy to let you know what the wording specifically states in the stipulation.
Can I ask if
Tracy.
Deborah can you see if Cormac Collier or Whit Gifford are online? Cormac, could you please speak to Mr. DeCosta's questions?
Oh, yep, he has his hand up. Cormac, go ahead. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Cormac Collier, President of the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. Yes, as Vicky stated, the stipulation is expressly written in the deed. It is exactly the same that was written in the prior deeds when the property was given to the town of Nantucket. So nothing has changed in terms of what the town of Nantucket, the rights that they had when they owned the property as well. In terms of the roads themselves across the Middle Moors, I think we're the only land trust in Massachusetts that has the amount of dirt roads on conservation land. We still provide access from 6 major critical points from Milestone to Pulpus as well. Mr. DeCosta knows that we actually work hand in hand with the hunters and the hunters that he works with during hunting season to open up the gates that are closed during summertime. We have certain areas that have been closed off in the summer because of issues with Uber drivers camping out, individuals partying, leaving debris. Town of Nantucket Police Department actually were supportive of these closures because of the amount of time and energy they actually had to put into monitoring the parties and trying to control all the unnecessary activity that was out there. But in no way have we closed access off to critical areas that have been traditionally used by the public, whether it's Larson Road, Alter Rock Road, Almanac Pond Road, Turner Road, Barnard Valley Road. A lot of roads for a land trust to maintain and operate.
Madam Chair. Yes, Cormac, and I appreciate all you've done, and you do work very diligently with the local community and the hunters, and I appreciate that. The only reason I wanted to make sure that this was in the deed is that long after you and I are dead and gone, this is still going to be part of this piece of land. So I wanted to make sure it was in the deed. I'm comfortable with what Vicky said. If it was in there the same way as it was before, then I'm ready to proceed.
Okay.
It'll be in the record of these minutes in this record, and we've mentioned it. We've discussed this prior to.
Okay, so is there a motion? Is that a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the clarifying discussion.
Thank you.
Vicky.
Thank you.
Town managers report.
Thank you. Deb, could you just go to that title? Yeah, thank you. Just wanted you to see the title slide here. I haven't been able to put together a monthly town manager report in a couple of months, but here we go. And this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, but a lot of the things that we are most actively working on. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's. Can you do what you did for Burns's slide and make it the whole screen? Okay, thank you so much. So again, these are the things that we've been most active with. We have some administrative updates. We have 2 major personnel searches underway, public health director and municipal finance director. We're very close with the public health director and not quite there yet. And municipal finance director, we've had several interviews and that process is continuing. We have a number of collective bargaining grievances underway and of course, still working at collective bargaining contract negotiations. We have 3 or 4 contracts that have been approved and ratified by the board and some still under negotiation. We are in the process of closing out the fiscal 2026 budget. It's a little bit painful. I'm not going to lie about that. It always is, but this year maybe a little bit more particularly so. Fiscal 27 needs to get opened and we are starting to plan for fiscal 28. And that will involve budget scheduling and a lot of other activities that precede the budget development. We worked to get your June 9th Select Board Annual Governance Workshop underway. I think that went really well. We have some operational reviews that are underway. These are reviews that we've engaged outside consultants to help us with, a finance department operational assessment and a facilities operational assessment is pending. We haven't actually signed a contract there, but we plan to hopefully shortly. We have a lot of public records requests and our public records officer and I were speaking today about giving the board a presentation at my next town manager monthly report to give you some details about what it takes to process a public records request and the volume of requests that we are receiving. Committee appointments, thanks to Deb Gudemont, our committee coordinator. We are in the process of onboarding and planning the onboarding for those who are joining committees and the committees in general after July 1 with conflict of interest training, open meeting law training, signing the code of conduct, all of those types of things, and orientation as needed for people who are on regulatory boards and they really need some extra attention. Next slide. Thank you. Projects that have come out of the 2026 annual town meeting. Our Island Home, we just discussed and we mentioned the donations and we're working on, that will be coming to you all shortly for some policy decisions related to the parameters of a donation fund, a capital campaign. Wait Drive Workforce Housing Phase 1 is getting ready to get underway. The Somerset Sewer Needs Area, you've already approved contracts for that. Those needed to be approved before June 30th. That has been done. And neighborhood meetings and other prep meetings are going to start happening very shortly in preparation for that project to start later this fall. The Harbor Master Building, that is also getting underway. I don't think it's been bid out yet, but there's going to be a lot of pre-planning for that. There needs to be staging and probably use of the town pier lot for a period of time to put all the construction equipment to the extent that it can't fit on the site. Remains to be seen as to whether or not that can happen.
Madam Chair, through you, that's not going to happen during the summer months, is it?
No, we
Thank you.
certainly hope not. That is absolutely not the plan. Stormwater regulations. So as you know, we approved a stormwater bylaw at town meeting, and now we are working on the regulations, and we are including a good amount of outreach and putting together some stakeholder groups to help sort through that and bring the regulations to you at a later time once people have weighed in with their feedback. We're in the process of putting together the bid specs or procurement rather for a new office trailer. This was approved at town meeting, and this is one of these items that is very dynamic. There are a lot of moving parts. The purpose of the office trailer was twofold or multifold. It is needed for meeting space, it is needed for office space, and it is going to be needed for swing space when we undertake some repairs to the 16 Broad Street building and 20 South Water Street building. People are going to need to go somewhere. And we don't want to get too carried away with purchasing the trailer until we know what the bids for those projects are going to come in at. But it is on our radar. Other post-annual town meeting activities include getting our bylaws to the Attorney General. I think, I don't see Leslie here anymore, but I think that has happened or is very shortly about to happen, and getting our certified home rule petitions to our legislators. Other projects that have high activity and significant resource needs. That includes the 20 South Water Street and 16 Broad Street interior renovations, the public restroom project that you just approved the contract for tonight. Thank you. Town concessions. We had a study done on the concession conditions over a year ago, and we've been working to be able to get that back to you with some recommendations as to the future of some of these concessions. For example, how much effort and expense do we want to put into a building that is in a flood zone? And what sort of fortification would we be willing to put into it if it is in a flood zone, but we want to keep it? And what are alternatives to having a building at all? So that is all coming to you later this summer or into the fall. We have a municipal parking lot review project going on, which is assessing the condition of parking lots and making recommendations as to improvements. And those include 2 fairgrounds, jetties, the town lot at Washington Street, and 131 Pleasant Street. You do have a workshop item. We're calling it a workshop because we hope to have a good amount of workshop-like discussion about the 2 fairgrounds parking lot. This was discussed by the board a month or 2 ago, and we agreed that it would be good to set aside some time to really get into that lot. So that's coming to you on July 8th. Baxter Road, we have at least 3 initiatives going on there: emergency access, alternative access, and the erosion control project. We have an internal group that's been working on this for several years, and we are going to be coming to you soon, probably in July, with some policy direction requests as to the current GO2 project. And it may be limited to that, but there's another core COIR project that we need to get your input on as well. So that's all coming to you very shortly. We have a stormwater master plan underway, and that is taking a lot of resources, and that is going to involve what does our stormwater division, how does it need to be staffed? We have a lot of stormwater infrastructure needs out there. We have nowhere near the staff that is needed for maintaining all of that and installing it. So that is underway and is coming. PFAS, of course, we have lots of resources going to that. And we have the downtown coastal resiliency projects on Washington Street and Easy Street, which I think were referenced in the recent Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee quarterly report. Capital improvement plan update. So this was discussed at your governance meeting a little bit, and it has pretty much been what we have taken from board discussions is that, and also internal discussions and looking at out years for the capital improvement plan, we need to get more disciplined with our CIP, and we have talked about how to do that. So what we are proposing is that we have a goal as listed there, construct a robust, finalize as best we can 10-year CIP that reflects the priorities of the board. That would be achieved through a three-step process. We want to review the current plan with you at your July 22nd meeting. We would like to reprioritize or just prioritize the projects that are in the plan and give you a little bit of homework on that so that you would review and prioritize the projects individually into high, medium, and low priorities. Choose up to 10 projects to discuss or propose, and discuss that somewhat at your workshop, at a workshop to be scheduled the week of August 10th, and then discuss the priority items as you all have hopefully categorized them at a September 16th board meeting. Again, that would be a workshop-like agenda item at your regular Wednesday meeting, but we do think we need a workshop to really be able to get, it could take a couple hours to get into the capital projects.
Can I ask a question on this
Sure.
slide?
Yep.
The first line up there, the current capital improvement plan has over $1 billion in projects that has not been synchronized for execution. Is that a 10-year plan?
That's a 10-year plan.
$1 billion in 10 years. That's what we have on the plan for now.
Yes. It
Yeah.
includes
Let that
many
sink in, people.
coastal resiliency projects.
That's frightening in my mind.
Exactly. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I do want to understand, as we're talking about this, what type of state, federal grant funding is available, particularly for the coastal resiliency stuff. If we're gonna keep these on the agenda. And I also want to understand how borrowing is going to continue to impact our credit rating.
So Rick, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything, but a lot of those items are going to need to be explored with our financial advisor. And there's a lot of other detail that I think you're going to want to get into at some point with this, specifically with the coastal resiliency projects and what the sea level rise projections are as put forward by the state, but what they maybe really are in accordance with data that's been
the actual
definitively
data.
collected. So the coastal resiliency projects are one whole category of area that needs some attention, and the coastal resiliency plan itself that contains the projects is a little bit dated and perhaps could use a refresh, and we have talked about that internally. Rick, do you want to add?
I was just going to say, because there's $1 billion or over $1 billion in the capital improvement, that's exactly why we want to have this process, because I think the way the CIP is developed, each individual department or the coastal or crack puts in their projects, and there's no notion of how we sequence them. Do we have enough money for all of it? The answer probably no, but I think it's important that you all see everything that's in there, so we begin to prioritize what we really, really, really need to get done, and then lock it down in hopes of not having other projects creep in along the way that just sort of pop up because of a lack of forward thinking or discipline in terms of getting projects into the CIP.
Thank you.
We'll go,
You want me to
go
go
to
to
Amy and then come back.
Amy, hi.
Hi, Amy Eldridge. Does that $1 billion reflect stuff that we just voted on in May? So this is unrealized projects the community is not really aware of. So this doesn't include Island Home, Somerset. That's scary in 10 years. Thank you.
Again, exactly why we have brought this forward for review.
Yeah, and just a comment on this, if I could. Looking at this, I think that the staff should be bringing forth their prioritization or their recommendations, and if that isn't going to be forthcoming in a detailed manner, then then a few key staff should be participating, because they're the people that have to get this done. And so, like we do when we're doing some of our strategic planning, where people, you are all involved. I think it's, this isn't just a 5 select board members, vote up and down. This has to be something that has a broad support from the various departments. And so we have to find a way. I don't have the answer right now, but we want to make sure that it's been inclusive and we aren't all, we aren't just building 100 bathrooms. We're like, Bobby, we could have 100 bathrooms for $1 billion, right? Maybe. Yeah, okay, maybe, because it's because of interest.
We've got to give some recognition to the fact that our existing town facilities need stuff. People need appropriate places to work to do all of these jobs. And like, we're talking about putting in another trailer, and the existing trailer that we have is not in good shape. It never got landscaped. Our landscaping across the board, and I know that we're in flux about with hiring a new landscaper, looks pretty awful. And I know there's a drought, but like the school has its own well that is not restricted. And the lawn is completely burnt up and destroyed in front of the school. And I don't understand why. Is it just for optics? Like, I don't want to bring up too many like hot button topics, but these things are going through my mind when I walk around. Jill?
I think, on the point about the school, we actually really need to get what it is they want to do. I've heard them say a lot of different things. I know that's not something that, we, look at so much, but we need to see it on the list of what they're really expecting to do and when they expect to do it. And I know things come up for them as well. So it might be good to get their input before, because their needs are big.
Yeah, if we do need another new school, we really need to know what we're looking at, which level of education it is, and what the siting is.
I am looking forward to working on this. I'm glad that we're doing it. It's instead of piecemealing it year to year. This is something that I'm more than happy to put in whatever time it takes to figure out. Because we're going to have to go through it. We're going to have to prioritize it. We're going to have to decide how much don't forget, we still have to go to the voters and get all this stuff approved. So, we can say, oh, we want to spend 80 million next year and 90 million the year after. But until we go to town meeting and get these overrides, because this is all overrides. It's not out of the budget. My understanding, it's all overrides. So, we just did 200 million in overrides. And now if we're going to go back every year for the next 7 or 10 years and ask for significant amounts of money, I think at some point the well is going to run dry.
Did you have another comment?
Well, I was just gonna say, the list we have, it is pretty comprehensive, but there are some things on there that have already been approved, and like the DPW's on here for $80 million, and I think we know that I hope that's not gonna come in at that, but so what we have needs to be updated a little bit based on May.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, thank you all for your interest in helping us with this. Next slide, please. Okay. Oh. Back one. Yep, there we go. The offshore wind turbine blade failure is still still active after 2 years, just about. And that is taking time of town staff to deal with. We have town and vineyard wind liaisons now designated. We have a town staff person that is our liaison to Vineyard Wind. The Community Claims Fund, as noted in the announcement, closes June 26th. We are in the process of reviewing the use of the settlement fund, and that will be another discussion with the board. And the comments on the debris infrastructure failure incident response plan, comment period closed on June 15th, and we've had to monitor all of those things. The drought, as we all know, is continuing. There was a statewide drought call with MEMA on June 17th, and I think I saw an email today that says there's going to be another one this week. And so they are very ramped up at the state level about this. The drought water use restrictions are outside of town administration's scope, but relevant for awareness, and we are trying to ensure that the town is also following those use restrictions, which is why for example, the lawn in front of the town building looks like a desert. Summer meetings we have coming up. The Nantucket Civic League Annual Summer Forum is coming up, as you all know, on July 13th at 9:30. I know that one or two of you aren't going to be able to be there, but that is coming up. And you do have a quick agenda item that morning at 8:30 to do end of year transfers. Those have to be done before July 15th. And FinCom, I think, is meeting on that same day to do their part of that. Several staff people and perhaps one or two of you will be attending Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayer meetings over the summer, Wisconsin Civic Association, Brant Point Association, and there are probably more. But this is obviously the season for meetings with seasonal and other groups. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Just a comment, Libby, just thinking about public info requests. Is there a way to just have the information online so it's completely detailed and people can look at it themselves? Is there any government entities that do that?
Well, I think the information that's being requested would never be online. It's emails and many other documents that just aren't available online.
Right. Well, it just makes me, it was having somebody spend, like, and we're all going to talk about this. That's why I'm bringing it up now, just to plant the seed. But it just seems to me with the way the world is now that you should be able to, be able to exclude the things you want to exclude, but put emails and this and that and the other and put it all searchable and have it all in a database that can't be corrupted and can't be messed with, that is accessible to the public, and let them have at it.
Well,
So anyway,
There are things that are sensitive that need to be redacted, and that's what takes hours
Yeah.
of someone actually going through and redacting them properly.
That's the exact issue.
Yeah. I
There
understand.
are confidential items that really just can't be put out on the town website.
Right. I do understand that, but anyway, I can't imagine that in 5 years, we're going to be doing it the way we're doing it right now. But we'll see.
Maybe we'll have robots doing it.
We already kind of do.
For what it's worth, when I used to do FOIA requests for people, it was 26 years ago, and they do it the exact same way today. It's hard.
Okay, I guess we're done with that. Select board reports and comments, discussion regarding the residential exemption. Is Rob Randy going to start us off? And what we decided last December, I think, December or January, was that we wanted to have a preliminary discussion earlier in the season so that we could have some more time to think about this, especially in light of so many approvals at town meeting for debt exclusions. And then we'll be setting the rate in the fall. We're not making a vote on anything tonight. This is a preliminary discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rob Raney, the town's assessor. As you pointed out, this is a sort of a preliminary discussion about what the residential exemption is, and to dispel some of the misconceptions that are out there about how it works. So the residential exemption was enacted by the Commonwealth in 1979. It was adopted here locally in Nantucket in 1981. It is an option under property tax classification, MGL Chapter 59, Section 5C, which allows a community to provide an exemption to taxpayers who both own and occupy their dwelling as their primary residence. And that is defined as a domicile under the state's definition. This exemption may not exceed 50% of the average value in the residential property class. That includes everything that is residentially classed. So vacant land, even apartment buildings, they're all classed residentially. So those go in to create that, what the average value is. Last year in 2026, the average value was just under 3.6 million. And last year we had a 25% exemption, which resulted in a exemption amount of just under 900,000. see. So some of the fundamentals about how this works, the total exempted value for all residential exemptions is subtracted from the total value of the residential class. This is a little wonky, but that's how we get to the tax rate. The entire residential class is impacted by changes to the exemption. So even though some people are getting an exemption, everybody pays for it. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So even the exemption people are paying, which I'll point out in a minute. For fiscal year 2026, there were 2,341 qualified exemptions. This means people that have come to us that have applied for the exemption, that have proven that they live here and own their property. Those exemptions resulted in a just over $2 billion amount of exempted value that was subtracted from the residential class to get to the tax rate. And Nantucket is so we get a lot of questions in my office about, we want the Nantucket exemption. This is not simply a Nantucket exemption. It is offered throughout the state, and there are about 20 other communities that have it as well, including Boston. So who does it benefit? Primarily, it benefits the lower to moderately valued properties that are owner occupied. So it's not going to benefit the seasonal people who are not living here full time and also have the higher valued properties. Parcels that are valued below the exemption amount will not receive the full benefit of the exemption because we cannot go below 10% of the otherwise full and fair market value of the parcel. So I'll point that out in a coming slide. The residential tax rate is calculated on the net value of the entire residential class. The residential tax rate increases to cover the cost of the exempted value. So the more exemptions there are, the more exempted value there is. The tax rate will go up to cover that. So this is the picture of what we had last year. We had a 25% exemption, and what I've laid out here is 4 properties: a $1 million, a $2 million, a $4 million, and a 10. And at the top, with no exemption, each one of those properties with a tax rate of $3.12. The property number 1 pays, this is simplified, but they paid just over $3,000 in taxes, property 2, and so on. And then when we use the same valued properties and we apply a 25% exemption, you'll see property 1 is then the taxable value of that parcel is reduced to just over $100,000. And then on over to the right, you can see what happens to the rest of them. And then the property number 1, their tax bill, so it was $3,000, now it's $300. So they're saving $2,800, which was the amount of the full amount of the exemption last year. And they are effectively paying 10% of what they would have otherwise. And you can see the examples for the other ones as well. And it's, property 2 is paying, if they had the exemption, they were paying 55% of what they would have otherwise. And the higher value you go, the less benefit they're getting. I was asked to provide a number of examples for this. There's no easy way to do it on one slide, so I apologize for that. But here is a 26%, which doesn't move the needle very much, but you can see that property number 1 now is maxed out. So they can't go below the 100,000. So they're not getting the full value, as property 2, 3, and 4 are getting the $2,900 full value of the exemption. And you can see the property 1 is still paying 10% of what they would have otherwise. Property 2 is now down to 53%, and so on. And I'll skip a couple of these. You can go over them for homework, but 27% doesn't move the needle much. And then we go up to, so here's that 30%. And you can see what's happening now is the tax rate has come up from 312 to now it's 315 because of the exempted value. And a 30% exemption, property number 1 is still getting it's still only paying 10% of what they would have otherwise. Their tax bill is now $315, so it's increased by 74 cents. Property number 2 is now saving $533, and they're only paying 46% of what they would have otherwise. And you can see the other examples there. And then as we increase 35%, the tax rate is now 319. So even property number 1 that's maxed out, they're paying a little bit more because the tax rate has come up, but everyone else is still coming down. And then we go to 40%, and we sort of track this as we go. Property number 2 is coming down. They're only paying 28% of what they would have otherwise at this point. And then if we increase all the way to 50%, which is the maximum allowed, you can see property number 1 is now paying $16 more than they would have at 25%. And property number 2, the $2 million one, is now down to 10% of what they would have. So they're now maxed out. And the other ones are lagging behind. This is the total of exemptions we had last year, broken down into value ranges. So for properties valued under $1 million, about 14% of the exemptions applied to those properties. And then you see the categories there. So basically what this is saying is that from $4 million and under, about 90% or a little bit over 90% of those people are the exempt. Those people fall in those value ranges. And then it also shows you that the average assessed value for all the exemption people put together was 2.2 million. And then the clicker.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Can we go back one? And I've got kind of a,
Easy for you to say.
yeah, all right, well, I'm challenging you, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not me, it's this thing. Oh,
Yeah, it's not intuitive to me. Like, I was struggling to understand why the net tax bill would change more at 2 million than it would at 4 or 10. Like, because I know that they're all getting the same exemption amount. They're getting the full exemption,
Mhm.
and it didn't like make sense to me. As a percentage, it makes sense to me that it would be different, but even as a total number, why is that?
that's just how the math works. I don't have a better answer, but that's how the math works.
You have to show you. All right, this is kind of I'm being a nerd.
Yeah.
So I would like to see the function and how it works because I don't quite
Yeah.
get it, but
Yep.
intuitively I don't get it.
Charity Benz has her hand up. I might
Okay.
as well take questions. Charity?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions for Rob because he knows that I've been looking at some of this stuff in the past. And the first question is, having looked at the voter registration list this afternoon compared to the residential exemption list, is anybody looking at who is actually continuing to be a resident here? And how is that? Is there a process, for example, sending out with the tax bills, an affidavit to people who claim the residential exemption to be sure that they remain entitled to that? I think I remember Brooke Moore saying that in Vermont, that's done every year. So essentially, I'm trying to figure out how well we're managing the older filings of residential exemptions. I know for a fact several people who have properties here, got the residential exemption, moved to different states, and rent their properties here. And then, but they keep their voter, some of them anyway, keep their voter registration so that they can come and protect their financial interests. So I would really like to know the answers to some of those questions, maybe at next public comment, or if Rob can answer them right now. Thank you.
Rob?
So we do check up on people, but it's not as rigorous. There's no requirement under the state law for us to have people apply every year to come back in and see us. So there is some word of mouth. There is, some other stuff that goes on that we will know or be informed that somebody has moved, and, we'll contact them and say, are you, still living on Nantucket? Because this is another thing, year round in the state's eyes is only 183 days. So you can claim year round residency here and really only live here one more day than half the year. So there's that as well. But yeah, we are, sending letters to people. We probably just haven't caught up to the people that you're referencing yet, but we will.
Charity, a follow-up before we?
Just one simple follow-up. I think if you compare the voter registration list to your residential exemption list, you'll find a lot of interesting stuff. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to put up one last slide
Yes,
here if I can get this thing to work. So this slide shows the number of residential parcels, the number of exemptions per year, and the year-round percentage and the non-year-round percentage based on those numbers. So this goes back 25 years and gives people an idea of what we know as year-round versus non-year-round. But obviously there are going to be people that either have not come in to apply to us to get the exemption, so we don't know if they're year-round or not. But this is what we know. Oh, and one more thing, on the, I don't know what this is doing. Oh, here we go. On the assessor's page of the town website, there is a good video that the Department of Revenue put out regarding the residential exemption. It's only about 10 minutes. It provides a lot of information that I just went over, plus some additional stuff. It's a good refresher for anyone who wants to look at it.
Any more questions? And discussion. Oh, another hand up. Oh, is Charity's hand up again, or is it just still up? Oh, sorry, I don't see it. Oh, yep. Good evening, Rick.
Dawn, thank you. Good evening to you. Just a general question. Are you going to seek some advice and counsel from the Finance Committee to help broaden the discussion on where we're going on this whole discussion? It's a really important one, and I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
It's not a bad idea. We will be continuing this until the fall. So, and there are things besides just the residential exemption that play into this. There's the assessed values, there's new growth, there's commercial, there's a number of factors. There's the shift to commercial that we need to take into consideration. And I think that there's a certain point where we don't want to negatively impact the lower side by going too high. But those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that the million and a half, it's not going to do much. And even as things rise, even up to 2 million, it's not going to do much. And so there are other things that I always talk about, like, are we charging enough for our permits and our fees? And, is that going to go up, cost of living every year, like restaurants, et cetera? How much would that raise? There's other things that we also could be doing on a regular basis, as opposed to solely relying upon property tax base. So, so I hope that those are.
Deb, there's some people not muted.
Was that me talking to myself?
No. I think
Maybe,
we're
but-
always on a slight delay. So if someone has it on, you start to hear yourself.
So anyway, I'm surprised that it wasn't I'm surprised at that impact, and I want to understand those numbers for sure.
Brooke or Jill? Which?
I just wanted to say, I think that with all of the capital projects that are coming and with what was voted, that my concern is for folks who are on fixed income or or moderate income, whose wealth is tied in their increasing property values, and can we cut them a break? Because through no fault of their own, their values are going up and their tax bills are going up. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about in my head, is there's folks who are really squeezed, probably in that $1.5 to $2.5 million range, as values have increased so dramatically with gentrification of neighborhoods and so on and so forth. So I think my thinking is, can we provide a little bit of protection for folks who are struggling to stay as their property values go up?
I'm not sure of the answer to that in terms of additional exemptions, but I mean, another idea that we might want to consider is setting a floor, whether it's at 25 or higher. And then as new debt actually officially comes on the books, there's a calculation done that raises the exemption until the debt starts to drop, and then it may go back down. So that might be something to consider. Bobby?
I'm going to go on record right now and saying that I don't support any raise in the exemption, and I'll tell you why. One is this only helps the people that owns a home. The majority of the people in this town rent a home, and the landlord is just going to pass the rise in taxes on to the tenant, and they're not going to get the exemption. So if all these rental houses or employee houses or whatever houses there are that people are renting in, they're already struggling to pay huge amounts of rent, they're just going to get an increase. Though the landlord's not going to eat it. And two, the majority of the people that are going to benefit from this are the ones that came to town meeting and voted through all these expenditures. So I want everyone to feel the pain. I'm perfectly happy to pay the extra amount of money that we talked about at town meeting for what we approved, because that's what I expected to pay. And I don't want to give myself an exemption now and pass it on to our summer residents or to our tenants or to our business owners. The commercial rate is extremely high, and a lot of these commercial businesses have had to go out and buy housing for their employees, and they're going to have to pass that cost on to their employees. They don't give them the housing for free. So, 25% is a good rate, and we all want to, everyone wants to spend all this money. Everyone should feel the pain. That's my 2 cents, and I'm going to stick to that. The only thing that I would say, if it's possible to set a cap on who gets the exemption for the people that are like up to $2 million, because those are the ones that are probably struggling, as you said, Brooke. But, just to give a blanket 30 or 40 or 50% more, no, I'm not going to support it.
Jill?
Yeah, well, Bob summed up what I was going to say. I've thought about this a lot, and I think we're maybe talking about it because of our debt obligations. And the thing is that these debt obligations are for terms of 20 years. Well, we don't know because we don't have the list, but they're usually 20 years or 30 years. So if you're doing that, are you saying that we're going to commit to this exemption for 20 or 30 years of the borrowing? Well, we're not. We're looking at it every year. So I don't want to tie those things together. And I do worry about people who, I mean, very few people take the exemption ultimately. And I worry about the people who have multiple homes, who are running businesses, who are trying to rent those for employees, and it just increases the amounts on them. And I just have a lot of concerns with it now. But originally I was in favor of it, but after doing my research, I felt like I'm kind of landing on sticking close to where we are.
Rob, Amy's behind you, so I think she may want to make a public comment or question.
Amy Eldridge, I just had a couple of comments. I think we need to increase to at least 30%. I'm not looking to go the full 50. There was a lot of spending, and I understand that we should all suffer, but there are people who live in this community that are struggling to keep their properties. I live in Sconset. Not everybody's going to get the effect of what happens when you live on Sankey Road and people are putting in $25 million lot subdivisions next to your house, gentrifying your neighborhood. I'm going to get the effect of that, but somebody on Essex Road's not going to get that same exposure. And I think there's a lot of families that live in certain areas that are the higher up neighborhoods that there are still regular year-round struggling people living in. Not many of us, but there are. So I would appreciate seeing 30 would be the max that I'd want to go, because I want to leave some playroom for 20, 30 years down the road when we might have to be looking at these increases. You know, nobody wants to go to the full 50%, and nobody wants to hose your neighbor either if you're in a lesser valued property. I don't want my neighbors to be paying even $5 more because I'm getting a discount based on my property. But I live in an area where my property is, I would never sell it for the 2.5 million that it's assessed at. But like, that's a lot of money. And that's like something that I have to look at as to whether or not I'm able to afford to keep a property that was bought in the 1950s by my husband's family. And there are other people in the same situation. I'm talking to islanders who have moved off island that have to short-term rent their houses in order to offset their costs. But I also want to remind a lot of people, and I mentioned this in December when we talked about this over our island home, is that there are a lot of people who have primary properties who have rental properties on their primary, their garage apartments, basement apartments that aren't being affected, but they're making income and getting this exemption. So, I mean, those are things to think about. Not everybody that has a rental property is paying the higher rate because it's not a separate address. It's attached to their primary. So not everybody's going to get the full effect of that passed on to them, and some are, but I just think that it's something we need to consider to help people. I mean, I'm hearing it every day where I work. People come in, they're talking, they're saying that they're struggling to be able to afford to keep their houses here. And if we keep spending the way that we are, you know, and I appreciate how people voted and I have to honor how people voted, but that's a lot of that stuff that got voted at town meeting is not how I voted. But that's part of living in America. That is why we do what we do and have the process that we have. But we need to be respectful of trying to keep a middle class community here and engaged in the community, because they're leaving on the boat every week. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, we've kind of held we've had these discussions, you know, probably, you know, Don and I, how long have we been here? You know, talking about this 5 years, and kept it pretty much at 25. And we've tweaked the commercial slightly a couple of years ago, but that, you know, that shift. But I think, again, I think the impact that people are feeling is not necessarily an exemption or non-exemption. It's a gentrification impact. They're feeling their taxes have gone up. You know, I'll use the example of my employee housing down the street. Maple Lane went in behind us, and the assessments are creeping up all around us. That's what is, I think that's really what's getting people. And Amy commented about it, and she's right. I think we have sort of been, for a long time, we've been led to believe our tax rate is low, and 80%, 90% is paid by the off islanders, so we can like spend, you know, we can spend whatever we want because it won't impact us. And I think that that was never taking into consideration what happens with gentrification and the changes of values. And I think that that is what people are struggling with right now. And I'm not sure that if we went to 30 or 50, that this is really going to impact that. There are some places that have homesteads and they don't change your value of your property until it changes hands, et cetera. And those people you know, I think Florida does this, some other places, they are protected. And then that money is captured later. I'm not sure that we can do anything like that. Probably not. And so I think we have to be thinking, is there another way, are there other ways to tackle this? And, you know, and make it sustainable and affordable for people. And I don't think we're there yet, but I think it's good that we're starting to talk about it. and again, I think we need to be looking at all our other ways that we raise money and making sure that those are going up a little bit every year, going up cost of living, so we don't come out 10 or 20 years and giving things away for free. I think that, I think betterments are an important part of it. I'm not saying that you stick betterments on everybody, fully, but I think if people are gaining something, they should be paying for some of it. And so if they're gaining value, we should be doing value capture as a community. And so there's other issues that, that there's a feeling that, oh, well, our, growth is good. We're making money. Well, we're making money if the growth is actually making more money for the town. And if we're the fastest growing town over the last 20 years, we should have a big pile of cash. And when you actually dig into it, what you realize is that that the state and the feds, they're great at they're great at giving you money to build the sewer, but they're not going to help you fix it. They're great at, all of a sudden you need a school, because you've grown so big, you need a bigger school. These things are not incremental. They are big jumps. And that is what we're facing now, is that the bill is coming due for this 20 or 30 year of strong, heavy growth that we have not been charging enough for as we've gone. And so we were in a tough situation as a community. And it's not just Nantucket. The Strong Towns, Chuck Marone came and kicked off the strategic plan, or the master plan. And he pointed out that this happens everywhere, that we're spreading people out into we're building into the hinterlands, and it's more expensive to service everything, but there's no more money for that. And so I think that we've got to, this is something that's going to take, it's going to take planning. It's going to take, us really digging into this. I don't think that the residential exemption is a magic bullet. There's a lot more work that we need to do. So anyway, sorry.
Anybody else this evening? This will be continued.
Madam Chair, it would
Yes.
be helpful for us to know, staff to know, what additional information specifically that the board would like us to work on in advance of your next discussion about this. Not necessarily right now, you can email us, but it helps to know exactly what you want. So when we get here, you don't say, oh, I thought we were going to have XYZ, but we didn't know you wanted that.
Anybody? Okay, not right now. Thank you. Next up, we have an update on the investigation of the African Meeting House vandalism. Brooke, do we have anything new?
I had a brief text exchange with the investigator, and his draft report is in peer review within his firm. He expects to see recommended changes back, and then we'll move forward from there. So imminently.
Clifford, good evening.
How you doing? Cliff Williams, African Meeting House Investigation Committee member. I'd love to contact or get in contact with anybody from the investigative firm. We could save 65 grand really quick. I think that's what we're supposed to pay them. I don't think they're fulfilling their obligations. And I know we sit here and talked about dog bites for 3 hours. We've talked about street signs for hours, but we've never talked about the African Meeting House very much in the last 6 months. So I was hoping to enter some dialogue about what we should do going forward, because this is just a big disappointment. And I think we need to do something. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to just make a comment, if that's okay. I mean, I believe that we, in your work group, was the one who chose the investigator to do a fully independent investigation of how the investigation was conducted when the incident happened. We've certainly not avoided talking about a horrible thing that happened on this island that's hurt a lot of people. And we are about to get back the report. And I hope that it's not going to be invalidated. This person has been completely independent in doing their investigation. It was never supposed to be led by anyone here with preconceived notions. Luke?
I'd like to support, I mean, I've got some comments on the record going back months that have some relevance, but I think what I'd like to request is whether or not the work group and maybe Ms. Moore, we could have just a Zoom conference or something so that, because there's been a big disconnect, a huge disconnect for a vast majority of our work group tasks. And I think it would be a healthy thing if that could happen, Ms. Moore, to have just a simple Zoom meeting with the work group.
The work group was given a task by the select board to do a procurement process to hire someone to review the investigation. The work group has no task beyond that. No task beyond that. Not to meet with the investigator. We clarified in a second meeting that should the investigator want to ask questions of the work group, the investigator has not had questions for the work group. All his questions were answered through town council. They were process questions on how to secure information in order to complete his work. This was never about individuals in the community weighing in on how this work was done or providing detailed information. This is an objective review of the investigation process by the town of Nantucket and the police department. It is not an investigation or a reinvestigation by your work group. The work group's job was to hire this individual. That work is done. The individual is completing his work, and the report will be coming. I don't know what the disconnect is, but hopefully I've clarified that right now, and we will be reviewing when the report comes out. There will be a timeline of exactly from town meeting through to when the report is shown to the public at the same time as all of us, what that process was. It was clear, it was transparent. I don't know, but the mandate was clear from this board. It's in our minutes. I don't know what the disconnect is. People keep standing up at the mic and claiming that there was other promises and other things. That is not what this board gave permission to that group. So that's done. The report is going to come out. It is fully independent. None of us or you had any ability to weigh in or have influence on the outcome of this investigation. It was meant to be independent. So I hope I'm clear to the public and to both of you who have commented repeatedly what your charge was, that your charge was complete when the person was hired. The person has not requested information from the group, and he is completing his report. So hopefully I've clarified all your questions tonight.
Well, that there was an entire paragraph taken out of the RFP, which did actually, which, you know, we were moving forward with, that some of us we don't understand that. But I mean, the goal here is to basically overturn all stones. We never were investigating anything. But if during the process of choosing an investigator, they made requests on saying that we'd like to come to visit, we'd like to present. I mean, one thing that they did, the idea of the investigative group in my thought, and originally my understanding was that they were going to build their case so that it was sort of insurmountable in terms of like undeniable and thorough, and that the investigative group initially was going to be involved in not investigating, but having oversight on behalf of the community that's how we were all led to believe in the beginning. And it's odd that that entire paragraph 3.5 was taken out.
I suggest that you review the minutes of the select board meetings where this group was formed and where we met again and discussed it in detail, what the charge and what the scope of the work of the committee is. The fact that everybody's represented that it was something different, I can't account for that, but I know what I voted for, and I know what the board members at the time voted for, and we reiterated that at a second meeting, and I believe it was in November, where we clarified the charge of the group. And this group was never to be active in this person's work. The whole purpose of this was for it to be independent of your preconceived notions, my preconceived notions, or anyone else in the community. The whole purpose of this was to prevent people's biases from weighing in on the outcome of the report. We will have an independent report because no one's biases are weighing in here. The person is doing the work independently. He's asked process questions on how to secure information, and he is drafting a report. That is the process that we laid out. I'm sorry if it was confusing, but it was clear as day in the minutes of those meetings from what the select board's charge was to your group.
Matt?
I guess I have a question. Is there a role for this work group once this has been released? And if there isn't, then why is this work group still, why didn't we disband this work group? If this was what we were going to do?
My recollection is that there was a request that if the investigator during his process had any questions, that he could go to Malcolm, who was chairing the work group, or the work group as a whole, if it was necessary. We didn't originally intend to keep them active. We allowed it to stay active kind of on a just in case basis. And then I suppose when the report is presented, if the work group's still in effect, they could call a subcommittee meeting to attend our meeting. I mean, we're trying to, my understanding is that we have tried to figure out a way to give people the most confidence in this process as possible, with such a sensitive, terrible thing that happened, to get some understanding of how it could be a completely impartial process, without any bias and any influence from anybody up here, anybody in the town, and anybody on a Nantucket-based work group. We hired someone totally outside who is now also having someone who is a peer of his review his entire report before he even releases it to us. So we're getting like a double review of an investigative firm that is outside of Nantucket. So I hope that helps in giving people a little bit more understanding and, you know.
I would hope that if once this is out, that the work group meets and discusses it. If they have questions or concerns, that is discussed, and that we want to come together as a community. And I know that's what Luke is saying. I know that's what we want. And
absolutely.
And so, I don't want it to be process, or for this group to feel left out, or feel like the process was improper in some manner. So we need to heal as a community on this, and none of us know what that means or how this, I don't think, or what's going to happen until the report is out. And then at that point, I would hope that there's some discussion, especially if it's inflammatory one way or another. I think that's it would be even more important that we find a way to come together. So I'm not, so that's, maybe I have a different view of how this went or how this should go, but I think, I hope that people, once it comes out, that people then are able to, come together on it in some manner. Thank you.
It is my expectation that when the report is finalized, it will be agended and it will be put in the packet, and we and everyone in the community will see it at the exact same moment in time. This board will not have editing control. Now, the only thing that we will be having a review by town council for issues of privacy, personnel matters, and union contracts. And that is an obligation we have as a community because we have union agreements. And so it will go to town council first for that review, and then it will be made public right after that. And that is the only purpose for which town council is reviewing it. They will not be recommending edits. They will not be reviewing the content. They will be strictly looking for legally required redactions related to personal privacy, which we are required under law to adhere to.
Clifford?
Yeah, I think the disconnect is the RFP was clear. I handed it to you a week or so ago, and it's totally different from what Brooke's testimony is or her opinion is. You could probably get the executive session minutes when we hired the group or we interviewed the group of what was supposed to be done and what we were going to do and what the group was going to do, and none of that's happened. That's why there's a big disconnect. It's not being followed. Thanks.
Madam Chair, Brooke, did the investigator give you any idea on when you get this, other than just it's under peer review? 1 week, 2 weeks?
Within a matter of weeks is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is like our version of the Epstein files.
He was away for 2 weeks, and literally the only conversation I'm having with him is timeline. What is happening to the report? When are we expecting it? What is the, like, I am absolutely refusing to talk, not that about any of the content. My goal is process to make sure it's as transparent as possible. And my understanding is the peer reviewer is if not finished today or tomorrow, and then he will make drafting recommendations back to Jim Brigham, who will rewrite according to the peer review, and then it'll be ready to go to town council.
So just so I'm clear, once it's gone through peer review and it's ready to be released, it will go directly to town council, not to anyone here in our administration. And then it will be released to the public at that point.
As I said, to town council for the purposes I stated, which is our legal requirements to protect the privacy of individuals in the community and to comply with union contracts. Because we have a legal obligation in that regard. And I want to be clear that the mandate from this board supersedes everything in terms of the scope of the work of this group. But town council, so when this is agended publicly, we will have town council, we will have the work group invited, the entire work group invited. And we will make sure that all the parties who are part of this, have been part of this, are in the room when we talk about it together. And I too agree that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in the community, and this has been out there far too long. The first attempt at procuring this work did not succeed, and we went diligently to go as transparently as possible with a public work group with recorded meetings. And everybody's thumbs off the scale is my goal here, that this is as independent as possible. And that is my hope. And that I am prepared to deal with whatever comes out of the report, good, bad, or indifferent.
Any other questions or comments? This should be forthcoming within the next couple of weeks. Are there any committee reports?
I went to my first Board of Health meeting. It was very interesting. I learned a lot. Meredith and Ann attended the meeting as it was their last one. I don't think I'm very popular with them right now, but that being said, I think that the town and our board should send them a letter of thanks for their dedicated service to the Board of Health for all the years that they were there. I'm sorry to hear that Jim has resigned, but I'd like to send him a letter as well, although we haven't officially, don't we have that on our agenda for the next meeting? I think so.
Yeah, I did mention
Yeah.
it at the beginning, but yes, we should send letters of thanks to all three.
Yeah, but I know they put a lot of their heart, sweat, and soul into that board, and they should be recognized for it.
Brooke?
On the housing front, I had the pleasure last week of going to Boston with well, I didn't travel with them, thank goodness, because they got stuck in traffic. I went up the night before, but a group of eighth graders who were selected based on an essay. They had to write an essay and then as to why they wanted to go to the State House. And I was not surprised that we were well represented by our students at the State House. We toured the State House and met with Senator Sear and Rep. Moakley. The kids got to sit in the Senate chamber and ask questions of their representatives, and they asked really good, pointed questions. It was a great group of kids, and they were supported by their teachers, and the housing staff went with us, and it was a really enjoyable day and really fun.
I had my first CPC meeting, and the annual forum will be in August, and applications will be due in late September. I can get the exact dates for the announcements. I just don't remember them off the top of my head. Brooke?
And I also wanted to say I attended the Juneteenth celebration at the African Meeting House property, and it is growing by the year, and it's now a collaborative effort between the Chamber, the Museum of African American History, whose staff were there, and our Office of Culture and Tourism, Shanta, and it was a beautiful day, and it's growing every year, and I encourage everyone to come next year. It's a really fun experience.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously 5-0. We are adjourned.
Jill, you seconded the adjournment.